Next up, at UFC Denver, we have Joshua Van taking on Charles Johnson. This is yet another fight that manifested in the Twitterverse. Joshua Van and Charles Johnson were saying, do you want to fight? I want to fight. Hey, let's fight. And then they put this fight together. Both of these guys are new to this card. They weren't on the card. They were new to the card. It was a late addition.
See, me and Joshua have the same facial hair.
You do.
That's it.
He pulls it off, though. He's the right complexion, and his hair color and his skin tone are not identical shades of red. So that's why it sort of stands out. His head is a better shape. Yeah, there you go. By the way, we have a very fun fight. This is one of the better fights on the card. Joshua Van, 10-1 in his career. 5-0 in his last 5. He's on a nice little 8-fight win streak. He's taken on Charles Johnson, 15-6 in his career. 2-3 in his last 5, but he is on a nice 2-fight win streak himself. Josh Van's super young. He's only 22 years old, and he's had several fights in the UFC so far trying to make a name for himself. Style-wise, he's a solid striker. He's got aggression. He's got a good amount of power. Takedowns and scramble skills are okay. He's this new generation of fighter, so even though he is primarily a striker, he has skills everywhere. He doesn't have like a tried-and-true background in any one specific thing. He does a nice job looking for things inside of scrambles and making opponents work. He's coming off that late knockout over Felipe Bunes. Debuting Felipe Bunes. He's taking on Charles Johnson. This guy's a busy technical striker with okay takedown defense and really nice hand speed. He has nice output at almost 5 significant strikes. I know, dude. I just kept trying to go. At almost 5 significant strikes per minute, and he can keep that pace for a full 15 minutes. His Achilles heel, though, has been takedown defense. He gave up 3 fights in a row with a combined 17 takedowns inside of those fights. But he is on this 2-fight win streak. The most recent one was over Jake Hadley, where Charles looked great moving forward, but backing up, he did get touched a little bit.
Oh, fuck you.
That's the piece that concerns me, because if Joshua Van's going to set the pace and move forward, then Charles Johnson will be backing up. I am going to pick Charles Johnson here. This is short notice. Josh just finished a full fight camp last month. He was supposed to fight Tagir Ulanbekov. Tagir weighed in, missed the weight, was holding his stomach, looked like death. Fight was canceled. So Josh was in a full fight camp recently. This fight materialized on Twitter, as I mentioned. Neither one of them were supposed to be on this card. I don't know what training they were doing or not doing, but it is a very good fight. Josh is certainly going to be the more powerful striker. Charles has that awkward in-and-out style, a ton of veteran savvy. It could frustrate, confuse Josh. I am going to pick Charles Johnson here. I think the experience is going to be the difference. Neither one of these guys are new to short notice fights. Josh Van's UFC debut was short notice against Zalgaz Zumagulov, but I think Charles Johnson's weird striking style, I do trust his cardio, the just wealth and years of experience. I'm going Charles Johnson here. I think this could be a split close decision. And I do have a bet on him, only a quarter of a unit at plus 170. You can get better odds now. What do you think? Jakey Bambalots.
Yeah, let me start off by saying that I think everyone likes Joshua Van. He seems like a nice kid. He seems like a good kid. 22 years old. He's definitely he is a really good prospect at 22 years old. And people, I think, kind of forget that he is 22 years old. I think people already, like, it was on Twitter and stuff like, oh, if he loses the fraud check if he loses the Charles Johnson. It's like, what are you talking about? This kid's 22 years old already at this stage. This guy's, Charles Johnson's a tried and true veteran. There's no fraud check here. He's a very good, win or lose, Joshua Van's going to be around. He's a very well-rounded fighter. His boxing is very, very good. Here's what I'll say, right? And I think that Joshua Van has said that he watches breakdowns. I don't know if he's going to stumble upon this breakdown, but I got some words for you, Joshua. I bet you shoot a takedown. I bet you shoot a takedown. I bet you shoot a takedown pretty early, right? I bet you do. I bet you do. Because Charles Johnson does not lose striking battles very often. When it's just pure striking, he wins usually most of those fights, and he turns strikers into wrestlers, and he turns wrestlers into even more desperate wrestlers. So I know everyone loves Joshua Van, and he's a good fight, and he can win this fight. I mean, it's a very close fight. It's probably going to be back and forth. It's probably going to be a very close decision, but I believe that the veteran savvy of Charles Johnson is going to start taking over in the second, in the third rounds, and I guarantee he puts Joshua Van in a position who got dropped by Borjas, right? He's been hit before. I bet he puts him in a situation where Joshua Van's shooting some takedowns, and once we see Joshua Van shooting some takedowns, you know he's getting a little bit uncomfortable. And I don't think he's going to get those takedowns if he shoots them, and Charles Johnson's just going to be all over him even more. So I'm a little bit biased here. Obviously, Charles Johnson was my lock of the week against Hadley, and he's a great guy, and I think he's really coming into his own. And I mean, that guy works fucking hard. Not saying that Joshua Van doesn't, but I mean, he fucking works hard. So I think he takes over late, and Joshua Van's gonna be fine though. Even if he loses this, I mean, his career's gonna be fine, and it's nothing to scoff at. So close fight though, very close fight.
Yeah, who's that nasty wrestler Charles Johnson beat 2 fights ago?
He beat them all basically. He's never lost a fight. He loses wrestling matches occasionally.
But he beat that. Oh man, I forget who it was. Was he also undefeated or a very similar record? It was like 16-1. It was an insane back and forth fight.
People act like
Charles was almost finished early, survived, and then did that. Like that was an incredible. Yeah,
people act like Joshua Van
just
people act like Joshua Van's gonna roll over. Who has ever rolled over Charles Johnson? Nobody's ever.
Even Mikhail.
He gets out wrestled. He gets out wrestled
Yeah,
sometimes. But I mean, Jesus.
No, I agree. That is that Maxim fight. Not that I always liked Charles Johnson. I always talked about how he was deserving of a UFC contract. He should have been here. But then he did lose a couple of wrestle matches in a row. And it's like, I don't know, man. And then when he beat Azat Maxim, it was like, oh, shit, dude. Charles Johnson's a gamer. And that's the type of fight that's where the experience might separate him here. But either way, this should be a really good fight. Josh, then we'll see what that prop bet is on Friday. You should hammer it. Joshua Van, $8,700 in DraftKings Fantasy. Charles Johnson, $7,500. I'm actually fading both. Charles Johnson doesn't score very well in DraftKings because he doesn't finish people. Joshua Van, $8,700 in DraftKings. I don't think he wins here. I don't think he finishes here. So I'm certainly not going to spend that money in DraftKings Fantasy. I'm assuming you agree with me, Jakey boy.
Dude, people are like Vans in terms of striking is levels above Johnson. That's just not true.
His power certainly is.
Charles Johnson flatlined Jake Hadley. He's got power too. And Joshua Van got dropped by Borjas, who doesn't have shit.
I mean, I did see it was funny to see those comments. A lot of people being like, dude, he didn't look good against Borjas. He finished late, but didn't look great. Either way, I do think Joshua Van is very, very good. I think Charles Johnson is very, very good. And I just think experience and cardio are going to be the difference here. And Charles Johnson is like a Sean Strickland. He can do what he does for 5 hours and not get tired. So
Charles Johnson does get tired, but he doesn't quit when he's tired.
He doesn't stop. He just continues.
That's a big thing.
Yeah. He just continues doing it. He's just breathing heavier when he does it. If you do want to unlock all the picks, the bets, the round line leans, the tools, the insight, and more, the artificial intelligence, WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. It's only $10 for an entire month's worth of access. We do have a $5 super chat from Future Governance. He said, Fatima Klein. Obvious pick after taping it. Jacob's corner angle, quite odd. She's not going to need her corner.
Why do you change the words?
She won't need the corner. I don't know why. I just see a few letters and then I just make them out. Thank you for the 5 spot.
She's going to get a first round finish?
Or get finished in the first?
Dominant.
Saying Fatima Klein's saying she's an obvious pick. Dude, she's 10 pounds. She's small. She competed at 115, and now she's going to fight at 125 against a bigger woman in the division.
Have you seen the neck on Jasmine?
Elevation.
I mean, I'll put a picture up if you.
And I'm not saying Fatima can't win. I don't have a bet on Jasmine. I'm not saying Fatima can't win, but to say obvious pick is he's a -1
because they don't have to answer for any of their picks afterwards.
He's a -170 kind of guy. He bet that line. Is what it is. And now he's like, it's just her neck. All right, let's move on.